He buried his wife alive. The chilling truth will shock you. The night was heavy with silence, the kind that weighed on the soul like a whispered secret waiting to be uncovered. A cold wind swept through the dense African jungle, rustling the leaves of ancient baobab trees that had stood watch over the land for centuries. The moon hung low, its pale glow casting eerie shadows over the small village of Nyomba Mrefu, a place where stories were told in hushed tones and the dead were never truly gone. Deep within the village, at the very edge of the towering forest, stood a modest hut built from mud and thatch. Inside, a single flickering flame struggled to keep the darkness at bay. The room smelled of damp earth and burning wood, but beneath that lingered something else, something sour, something rotten, something wrong. Jabari sat on the woven mat in the center of the hut, his broad shoulders hunched, his fingers trembling as he traced patterns in the dirt floor. His eyes, once full of fire and pride, now held only shadows. Outside, the distant hoot of an owl sent a shiver up his spine. He hated that sound. In their village, an owl's call was a warning, a whisper from the ancestors that something terrible was coming. And tonight, he knew they were right. Jabari had buried his wife, Osha, 3 nights ago. The memory played in his mind like a haunting melody, her lifeless body wrapped in a simple white cloth, her soft hands folded over her chest, her face too peaceful, too perfect, as if she were merely sleeping. The village elders had helped him lower her into the ground, chanting the ancient prayers meant to guide the departed safely into the next world. But now he wasn't so sure she had ever left. The woman who would not die, Osha, had always been different. Some whispered that she had the gift, that she could see things others could not. Others feared her, claiming she spoke to spirits, that she could weave spells with nothing but her words. But Jabari knew the truth, she was just a woman. A strong, fierce, beautiful woman who never bowed to fear, never cowered before superstition. And yet, fear was what had led him to this moment. 3 weeks before her death, strange things began happening in their home. The cattle refused to enter the pen. The chickens laid eggs with blood-red yolks. Shadows moved when no one was near. Then, Osha herself began to change. She would wake in the middle of the night, her body rigid, her breathing shallow, whispering words in a language Jabari did not understand. She would stare at him with eyes that were not hers, eyes that seemed to belong to something ancient, something that did not belong in this world. The village elders were the first to notice. She is cursed, they told Jabari, their voices heavy with certainty. If you do not act, the darkness will consume not only her, but you as well. Jabari did not want to believe them. He loved Osha. But then, the night came when he awoke to find her standing over him, her lips moving in silent prayer, her fingers digging into his skin. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, filled with something that was no longer human. That was the night he made his choice. Buried, but not gone. Jabari thought it would end with the burial. That was how it was supposed to work. The corpses were laid to rest, their spirits sent back to the land of the ancestors. But the village had rules. When someone was buried under suspicion of being touched by darkness, their grave was not to be visited. Not for 7 days. Not until the spirits had time to settle. Jabari had obeyed. But that did not stop the whispers. Late at night, when the village slept, he swore he could hear something. A faint scratching. A muffled voice carried by the wind. He told himself it was his mind playing tricks. That grief was twisting his thoughts. But then, the children began to speak. I saw her, one little girl whispered to her mother. She was standing in the trees, watching. Another swore they had heard Osha calling their name, her voice soft and sweet, just as it had always been. Jabari ignored it. He had to. Until the knock came. Soft at first, barely audible over the crackling of the fire. Then louder. Insistent. A hand. Rapping against the wooden door. Jabari's breath caught in his throat. He turned slowly, every muscle in his body screaming for him to run. But he couldn't. He wouldn't. They knocked him again. And then, "Aren't you going to let me in, my love?" The voice was soft, familiar, and it was coming from the other side of the door. Jabari's heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the dread that had settled deep within him. The voice outside his door was unmistakably Usher's, soft, melodic, and hauntingly familiar. But how could it be? He had buried her, he had felt the cold earth cover her lifeless form. Yet, here she was, calling to him in the dead of night. "Jabari, my love, won't you let me in?" His mind raced, grappling with the impossibility of the situation. Was this some cruel trick? A manifestation of his grief-stricken mind? Or had the village elders been right all along? Had he buried Usher alive, only for her to return from the grave? Summoning every ounce of courage, Jabari approached the door, his hand trembling as he reached for the latch. He hesitated, 1,000 thoughts swirling in his mind. What if opening the door invited something sinister into his home? But what if it truly was Usher, returned to him by some miracle? Taking a deep breath, he unlatched the door and pulled it open. There, bathed in the pale glow of the moon, stood Usher. Her skin was ashen, her eyes hollow, yet there was an undeniable warmth in her gaze. She smiled, a gentle curve of her lips that sent a shiver down Jabari's spine. "Usher," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Yes, my love. It's me." Without thinking, Jabari reached out, his fingers brushing against her cold skin. She felt real, tangible. Tears welled up in his eyes as he pulled her into an embrace, the chill of her body seeping into his own. How is this possible?" he stammered, pulling back to look into her eyes. Usher's smile faded, replaced by a look of sorrow. "I don't know. All I remember is darkness, and then I was here." Jabari's mind raced. He had heard tales of the dead returning, of spirits lingering among the living. But he had never believed them. Now, faced with the impossible, he didn't know what to think. "Come inside," he said, guiding her into the hut and closing the door behind them. As they sat together, the flickering flame casting dancing shadows on the walls, Jabari couldn't shake the unease that gnawed at him. This was Usher, his wife, the love of his life. But something was different, something he couldn't quite place. Are you hungry?" he asked, desperate to fill the silence. Usher shook her head. "No. I don't feel hunger." "Thirsty?" "No." The unease grew. Jabari reached out, taking her hand in his. It was cold, lifeless. He swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "I'm just glad you're here," he said, though the words felt hollow. As the night wore on, Usher spoke little, her gaze distant. Jabari watched her, his mind a whirlwind of confusion and fear. He had her back, but at what cost? When dawn broke, casting a golden hue over the village, Jabari knew he couldn't keep Usher's return a secret. The village elders would need to know, and the villagers. He dreaded their reactions. "We should go see the elders," he said gently. Usher nodded, rising gracefully. "Yes. They need to know." As they stepped out into the morning light, the villagers gasped, whispers spreading like wildfire. Jabari held Usher's hand tightly, guiding her toward the elders' hut. Inside, the elders sat in a circle, their faces etched with age and wisdom. They looked up as Jabari and Usher entered, their eyes widening in shock. "Jabari," Elder Mosi began, his voice trembling, "what is the meaning of this?" I don't know," Jabari admitted. "She came to me last night. I don't understand how, but Usher has returned." The elders exchanged glances, their expressions grave. This is unnatural, Elder Nia said softly. The dead do not return. But she has, Jabari insisted, desperation creeping into his voice. She's here. Elder Mosi rose, approaching Osha cautiously. He reached out, his hand hovering just above her skin. Osha, he said gently, do you remember anything? Anything at all? Osha shook her head. Only darkness. And then, I was at our door. The elders conferred in hushed tones, their faces etched with concern. Jabari's heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the dread that had settled deep within him. The voice outside his door was unmistakably Osha's, soft, melodic, and hauntingly familiar. But how could it be? He had buried her, he had felt the cold earth cover her lifeless form. Yet, here she was, calling to him in the dead of night. Jabari, my love, won't you let me in? His mind raced, grappling with the impossibility of the situation. Was this some cruel trick? A manifestation of his grief-stricken mind? Or had the village elders been wrong? Had they condemned Osha unjustly? Summoning every ounce of courage, Jabari approached the door. His hand trembled as he reached for the latch, hesitating. The air grew colder, and the faint scent of earth and decay wafted through the cracks. He swallowed hard, then, with a swift motion, flung the door open. The night was impenetrably dark, the moon now obscured by thick clouds. There was no one there. Only the rustling of leaves and the distant call of nocturnal creatures. Jabari's breath came in shallow gasps as he scanned the surroundings, searching for any sign of her. Osha, he called out, his voice barely more than a whisper. Silence. He stepped outside, the cool earth pressing against his bare feet. The village was still, each hut darkened, its inhabitants lost in slumber. Jabari's eyes darted to the edge of the forest, where shadows seemed to dance and beckon. This isn't real, he muttered to himself. It can't be. But as he turned to re-enter his hut, he heard it again, a soft, mournful cry, like the wind through the trees. It was Osha's voice, unmistakable and filled with sorrow. Help me, Jabari. His resolve shattered. Without thinking, he sprinted towards the sound, his heart leading him deeper into the forest. Branches scratched at his skin, and roots threatened to trip him, but he pressed on, driven by a desperate need to find her. The trees thickened, their canopies blotting out the scant light. Jabari stumbled into a small clearing, and there, illuminated by a shaft of moonlight breaking through the clouds, stood Osha. She was as beautiful as he remembered, her dark skin glowing softly, her eyes deep pools of sadness. But there was something ethereal about her, a translucence that made his heart ache. Osha. She reached out a hand, her fingers barely visible in the dim light. You left me, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Jabari fell to his knees, guilt and anguish tearing at his soul. I thought. They told me you were cursed. That you were gone. I was lost, she replied, her voice echoing with pain. But not dead. You buried me alive, Jabari. The weight of her words crushed him. He had trusted the elders, believed in their wisdom. But now, faced with the specter of his beloved, he realized the depth of his mistake. Forgive me, he pleaded, reaching out to touch her. But as his fingers brushed against hers, she dissipated like mist, leaving him alone in the clearing, the cold night air biting at his skin. Jabari remained there, tears streaming down his face, the enormity of his actions crashing over him. He had buried his wife alive, and now her restless spirit haunted him, a constant reminder of his failure. As dawn approached, he made his way back to the village, his steps heavy with sorrow. He knew what he had to do. He would seek out the elders, demand answers, and find a way to bring peace to Osha's tormented soul. But deep down, he feared that some mistakes could never be undone. The village of Nyamba Murphy awoke to find Jabari a changed man, his once proud demeanor replaced by a haunted, hollow gaze. Whispers spread among the villagers, tales of restless spirits and ancient curses. And as the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows over the land, Jabari set out on a journey to uncover the truth, to confront the darkness that had claimed his wife, and to seek redemption for the unforgivable sin he had committed. Little did he know, the path ahead would be fraught with danger, deception, and revelations that would shake the very foundations of his beliefs. And the chilling truth, once unveiled, would shock not only Jabari but the entire village, revealing secrets buried deeper than Osha's grave. Jabari's resolve to seek answers from the village elders was met with unexpected resistance. As he approached the central gathering hut, whispers spread among the villagers, their eyes filled with suspicion and fear. The once familiar faces of his community now seemed distant, their trust eroded by the events surrounding Osha's death. Inside the dimly lit hut, the elders sat in a semicircle, their expressions stern. Elder Nia, the matriarch of the council, spoke first. "Jabari, you have defied our traditions," she said, her voice heavy with reproach. "The dead are not to be disturbed. Yet, you claim to have seen Osha's spirit. Such claims sow discord and fear among our people." "But I heard her voice," Jabari insisted. "She called out to me, seeking justice for a wrong we committed." Elder Kamal shook his head. "Grief clouds the mind, Jabari. It makes us see and hear things that are not there. You must let her rest." Frustration welled up within Jabari. "If we have wronged her, if she was not truly cursed, then we are responsible for her suffering. We must find a way to make amends." The elders exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, Elder Nia spoke again. "There is a way, but it is dangerous and forbidden. The path to the spirit world is not meant for the living." "Tell me," Jabari pleaded. "I will do whatever it takes to bring her peace." Reluctantly, Elder Nia revealed the existence of an ancient ritual, one that could open a gateway to the spirit realm. It required rare herbs, a blood sacrifice, and the guidance of a shaman who had long been exiled from the village for practicing forbidden arts. Determined, Jabari set out to find the shaman, venturing deep into the uncharted territories beyond the village. Days turned into weeks as he braved treacherous landscapes, wild beasts, and the ever-looming threat of hostile tribes. His journey was fraught with peril, testing his resolve at every turn. Meanwhile, back in Nyamba Mrefu, unrest grew among the villagers. Crops began to wither inexplicably, livestock fell ill, and a sense of dread hung heavy in the air. Many believed that Osha's restless spirit was the cause, punishing them for their transgressions. Others blamed Jabari, accusing him of bringing a curse upon the village by disturbing the dead. Amidst the turmoil, a young woman named Malaika emerged as a voice of reason. She had been Osha's closest friend and was one of the few who believed in her innocence from the beginning. Malaika took it upon herself to investigate the strange occurrences, seeking answers in the old legends and stories passed down through generations. Her research led her to discover tales of a malevolent spirit, a trickster known as Agadzegodza, who thrived on chaos and discord. According to the legends, this spirit could possess individuals, sowing seeds of mistrust and fear within communities. Malaika began to suspect that Agadzegodza had a hand in the village's misfortunes, possibly even influencing the elders' decision to label Osha as cursed. As Jabari continued his quest, he encountered a series of challenges that tested not only his physical strength but also his faith and determination. He faced illusions that preyed on his deepest fears, spirits that whispered doubts into his ear, and trials that forced him to confront his own guilt and remorse. One night, as he rested by a fire, a mysterious figure approached him. The stranger introduced himself as Kofi, a wanderer with knowledge of the spirit world. "I know of your quest," Kofi said, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames. "And I know the shaman you seek. But be warned, the path you tread is perilous. The spirit world is not bound by the laws of our realm. To navigate it, you must be willing to sacrifice everything. Desperation and determination burned in Jabari's heart. I have already lost everything that matters. If sacrificing myself can bring Osha peace, then so be it. Kofi nodded solemnly. Very well. I will guide you to the shaman, but the rest will be up to you. Together, they journeyed to a hidden enclave where the exiled shaman resided. The shaman, an elderly woman with piercing eyes that seemed to see into one's soul, listened to Jabari's plea. You seek to enter the spirit world to atone for your sins, she said, her voice a raspy whisper. But be warned, the spirits do not easily forgive. To appease them, you must confront the true source of the darkness that plagues your village. Back in Nyamba Mrefu, Malaika's suspicions about Agadzegodze grew stronger. She noticed that those who had been most vocal in condemning Osha now exhibited strange behaviors, as if they were under some malevolent influence. Determined to uncover the truth, she began to gather a small group of villagers who still believed in Osha's innocence, hoping to. Jabari's resolve to seek answers from the village elders was met with unexpected resistance. As he approached the central gathering hut, whispers spread among the villagers, their eyes filled with suspicion and fear. The once familiar faces of his community now seemed distant, their trust eroded by the events surrounding Osha's death. Inside the dimly lit hut, the elders sat in a semicircle, their expressions stern. Elder Nia, the matriarch of the council, spoke first. Jabari, you have defied our traditions, she said, her voice heavy with reproach. The dead are not to be disturbed. Yet, you claim to have seen Osha's spirit. Such claims sow discord and fear among our people. Jabari clenched his fist, struggling to maintain his composure. I did not imagine it, Elder Nia. Osha appeared to me, seeking justice for the wrong we did to her. Another elder, Mosi, shook his head. The rituals were performed correctly. If her spirit is restless, it is because of your actions, not ours. Frustration bubbled within Jabari. I followed your guidance, and now I am haunted by my wife's spirit. There must be a way to make amends. The elders exchanged glances, their faces etched with concern. Finally, Elder Nia sighed. There is a ritual, but it is dangerous and has not been performed in generations. It requires a journey to the sacred grove, where you must confront the spirits and seek their forgiveness. I will do whatever it takes, Jabari declared, determination burning in his eyes. As preparations for the ritual began, whispers of Jabari's quest spread throughout the village. Some villagers offered support, while others distanced themselves, fearing the wrath of the spirits. On the eve of his departure, Jabari visited Osha's grave, kneeling beside the mound of earth. I failed you, Osha. But I will make this right, no matter the cost. The journey to the sacred grove was fraught with peril. Dense forest, treacherous terrains, and ominous sounds tested Jabari's resolve. Each step forward was a battle against his own fears and the unknown dangers lurking in the shadows. As he ventured deeper, the air grew thick with an otherworldly presence. Whispers echoed around him, and fleeting shadows danced at the edge of his vision. Jabari's heart pounded, but he pressed on, driven by the need to atone for his sins. Reaching the heart of the grove, Jabari found himself before an ancient tree, its gnarled branches stretching toward the sky. At its base, a circle of stones surrounded a flickering flame that seemed to defy the darkness. Taking a deep breath, Jabari stepped into the circle. The temperature plummeted, and the whispers grew louder, forming a cacophony of voices. In the flickering light, ethereal figures materialized, their faces a blend of sorrow and anger. Among them stood Osha, her eyes filled with a pain that pierced Jabari's soul. Why did you betray me? Her voice echoed, a haunting melody of anguish. Tears streamed down Jabari's face. I was blinded by fear and tradition. I see now the grave mistake I made. Please, guide me to make amends. The spirits murmured among themselves, their forms shifting like mist. Usha stepped forward, her expression softening. To restore balance, you must confront the darkness that led you astray. Only then can my spirit find peace. Before Jabari could respond, a chilling laugh resonated through the grove. From the shadows emerged a figure draped in tattered robes, eyes gleaming with malice. You seek redemption, mortal, the figure sneered. Then face me, the embodiment of your fear and ignorance. Jabari's breath caught in his throat. This was the manifestation of the very darkness that had clouded his judgment. Steeling himself, he met the figure's gaze. I will not run from my mistakes any longer, Jabari declared, his voice steady. The figure's grin widened. Very well. Let the trial begin. As the spirits encircled them, the grove transformed into a battleground of light and shadow. Jabari knew that to free Usha's spirit and his own soul, he would have to confront the deepest recesses of his own darkness. The path to redemption was perilous, but Jabari was prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to right the wrongs of the past and bring peace to the woman he had loved and wronged. Jabari's heart pounded as he stood before the village elders, their faces etched with disapproval. Elder Nia's voice cut through the tense silence. Jabari, your actions have disturbed the balance between the living and the dead. Such transgressions cannot go unaddressed. But I had to act, Jabari pleaded. Usha's spirit reached out to me. I couldn't ignore her cries. Elder Nia's eyes narrowed. The dead have their realm, and the living must not interfere. Your defiance has consequences. As the elders deliberated Jabari's fate, whispers of his actions spread through Nyambamrefu. The once respected hunter now faced suspicion and fear from his community. Children were ushered away when he approached, and old friends avoided his gaze. In the midst of this turmoil, strange occurrences plagued the village. Crops withered overnight, livestock fell ill without explanation, and an unsettling chill lingered in the air. Many attributed these events to Jabari's disturbance of the natural order. Desperate to make amends and restore harmony, Jabari sought the guidance of a reclusive shaman named Malaika, who lived deep within the forest. Known for her wisdom and connection to the spirit world, she was his last hope. After a grueling journey, Jabari found Malaika's dwelling, a hut adorned with talismans and surrounded by ancient trees. He recounted his tale, his voice heavy with remorse. Malaika listened intently, her weathered face revealing no emotion. When he finished, she spoke softly, the bond between you and Usha is strong, but meddling with the afterlife has dire repercussions. To restore balance, you must undertake a perilous journey to the realm of spirits and seek Usha's forgiveness. How do I reach this realm? Jabari asked, determination overshadowing his fear. Malaika handed him a small pouch filled with sacred herbs. At midnight, under the baobab tree where Usha was buried, burn these herbs and inhale the smoke. It will guide your spirit to the other side. But beware, the path is fraught with dangers, and not all who venture return. That night, Jabari followed Malaika's instructions. As the smoke enveloped him, his surroundings blurred, and he felt himself being pulled into a vortex of light and shadow. When he opened his eyes, he stood in a realm unlike any other, a landscape bathed in ethereal light, with mist swirling around spectral figures. Navigating this eerie domain, Jabari encountered spirits of those long departed, their faces reflecting sorrow, anger, and longing. Some reached out to him, whispering unintelligible words, while others watched from a distance. The air was thick with emotion, pressing down on him with each step. Finally, he saw her, Usha, standing by a river of shimmering light. Her beauty was unchanged, but her eyes bore the weight of betrayal. Usha, Jabari called out, his voice breaking. I've come to seek your forgiveness. She turned to him, her expression a mixture of love and pain. Jabari, you left me to a fate worse than death. Why? Tears streamed down his face. I was blinded by fear and the elder's words. I failed you, and for that I am truly sorry. Osha's gaze softened slightly. To mend what has been broken, you must confront the darkness that led to my unjust death. Only then can our souls find peace. Before Jabari could respond, a shadowy figure emerged from the mist, a manifestation of the malevolent force that had sown discord between them. Its eyes gleamed with malice, and it spoke in a voice that chilled Jabari's very soul. You dare to challenge me. Prepare to face the consequences of your defiance. The ground trembled as the entity advanced, and Jabari felt an overwhelming surge of fear. But the thought of Osha's suffering and the turmoil in his village stilled his resolve. Drawing upon inner strength he never knew he possessed, Jabari stood tall, ready to confront the darkness and fight for redemption. The ensuing battle would test not only his courage but the very essence of his spirit, determining the fate of both the living and the dead. Jabari stood firm, his resolve hardening as the malevolent entity advanced, its form shifting and riding like a shadow come to life. The air grew thick with tension, the very atmosphere vibrating with the clash of unseen forces. Osha's ethereal presence beside him lent strength to his wavering spirit. You cannot defeat me, the entity hissed, its voice a cacophony of whispers. I am born of fear, nourished by doubt. Your guilt has given me power. Jabari clenched his fist, memories of his actions flooding his mind, the burial, the whispers of the elders, the haunting nights filled with regret. But beneath the weight of his remorse, a flicker of determination ignited. I may have faltered, Jabari replied, his voice steady, but I will not let my mistakes define me. I seek redemption, not just for myself, but for Osha and our village. The entity's form wavered, its confidence seemingly shaken by Jabari's newfound resolve. Sensing an opportunity, Osha stepped forward, her translucent hand reaching out to touch Jabari's. Together, she whispered, we can confront this darkness. Drawing strength from their unity, Jabari and Osha faced the entity, their combined will forming a barrier against its oppressive presence. The entity recoiled, its shape distorting as if struggling to maintain cohesion. Your bond is strong, it spat, but it won't be enough. Summoning the teachings of Malaika, the shaman, Jabari began to chant an ancient incantation, his voice resonating with the very essence of the spirit realm. Osha joined him, their voices intertwining in a harmonious melody that reverberated through the ethereal plane. The entity shrieked, its form unraveling as the power of their combined chant pierced its core. Tendrils of darkness dissipated into the surrounding mist, the malevolent force weakening with each passing moment. This is not the end, it warned, its voice fading. As long as doubt and fear exist, so shall I. With a final, resounding cry, the entity shattered into fragments, dissolving into nothingness. The oppressive weight that had hung in the air lifted, replaced by a serene calm. Exhausted but triumphant, Jabari turned to Osha, her form now glowing with a gentle luminescence. Thank you, she said softly. You freed me from the torment of unrest. Tears welled in Jabari's eyes. I'm sorry for everything. I promise to honor your memory and seek forgiveness from our people. Osha smiled, her image beginning to fade. Live with courage and love, Jabari. That's all I ever wanted. As she vanished, Jabari felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. The journey had been arduous, but he had faced his inner demons and emerged stronger. Determined to make amends, Jabari prepared to return to Nyamba Murphy, ready to share his experience and heal the rift that had plagued his village. The path to redemption lay ahead, illuminated by the lessons learned in the realm of spirits. As Jabari made his way back to Nyamba Murphy, the weight of his journey through the spirit realm pressed heavily upon him. The path was familiar, yet each step felt laden with the gravity of his revelations and the responsibility that awaited him. The village, once a place of solace, now stood as a testament to the consequences of fear and misunderstanding. Upon his arrival, the villagers eyed him with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Whispers fluttered through the air like restless spirits, carrying fragments of rumors and speculations about his absence. Determined to address the turmoil that had engulfed his home, Jabari sought an audience with the village elders. The elders convened in the central hut, their faces etched with lines of wisdom and concern. Elder Nia, the matriarch, regarded Jabari with a penetrating gaze. "Jabari," she began, her voice steady yet tinged with reproach, "you have returned, but not without causing ripples in the fabric of our community. Explain yourself." Taking a deep breath, Jabari recounted his harrowing journey, the haunting voice of Osha, the confrontation with the malevolent entity, and the ultimate revelation of his own fears and misconceptions. He spoke of the spirit realm's trials and the profound understanding he had gained about the true nature of Osha's spirit. As he spoke, the elders listened intently, their expressions shifting from skepticism to contemplation. When he finished, a heavy silence enveloped the room. Elder Nia finally broke the silence. "Fear and ignorance have sown discord among us," she acknowledged. "But understanding and courage can mend what has been broken." With the elders' support, a communal gathering was organized. The villagers assembled beneath the ancient baobab tree, its sprawling branches sheltering them as they awaited Jabari's words. Standing before his community, Jabari's voice resonated with humility and resolve. "I stand before you, not just as Jabari, but as a man who has faced his deepest fears and emerged with a heart seeking redemption. I wronged my beloved Osha, and in doing so, I wronged all of you. But from this pain, I have learned that our strength lies in understanding, in questioning the shadows that cloud our minds." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a collective acknowledgement of shared responsibility. "Let us honor Osha's memory," Jabari continued, "by fostering a community where fear does not dictate our actions, where we seek truth before casting judgment." The days that followed were marked by collective reflection and healing. The village engaged in rituals to honor Osha's spirit, seeking to appease any unrest and to reaffirm their commitment to unity and understanding. Traditional songs filled the air, narrating tales of courage, redemption, and the importance of community bonds. Jabari, once a solitary figure burdened by grief, became a beacon of change. He worked alongside the elders to establish forums where villagers could voice their fears and seek guidance, ensuring that no one would face their struggles in isolation. Through these efforts, Nyamba Mrefu transformed. The shadows of suspicion and fear receded, replaced by a renewed sense of trust and solidarity. The tale of Jabari and Osha became a cornerstone of the village's oral history, a poignant reminder of the perils of fear and the redemptive power of understanding. In the quiet moments of dawn, as the first light kissed the horizon, Jabari would often sit beneath the baobab tree, feeling Osha's presence in the gentle rustle of the leaves. He had journeyed through darkness and emerged into light, carrying forward the lessons etched into his soul by love, loss, and the unwavering spirit of his beloved Osha. Thus, the village of Nyamba Mrefu thrived, its heartbeats synchronized in a rhythm of compassion and unity, forever honoring the memory of a love that transcended even the boundaries of life and death. In the months that followed, the village of Nyamba Mrefu experienced a profound transformation. The tale of Jabari and Osha became a cornerstone of the community's oral tradition, serving as a poignant reminder of the dangers of fear and the redemptive power of understanding. Elder Nia, reflecting on the events, initiated a series of communal dialogues aimed at addressing and dispelling long-held superstitions. These gatherings encouraged villagers to share their experiences and fears, fostering a culture of openness and mutual support. Jabari, embracing his role as a catalyst for change, collaborated with the elders to integrate lessons from his journey into the village's educational practices. Storytelling sessions with the youth emphasized critical thinking and empathy, ensuring that future generations would approach the unknown with curiosity rather than fear. The village also reinstated traditional rituals that honor the deceased, acknowledging the ongoing connection between the living and their ancestors. These ceremonies, infused with newfound understanding, reinforced the community's commitment to unity and respect for all life. Through these collective efforts, Nyamba Mrefu not only healed from its past wounds but also flourished as a beacon of enlightenment and compassion. The legacy of Jabari and Osha's love and the lessons learned from their story became an enduring testament to the strength of a community united in the face of adversity. In essence, the journey of Jabari and Osha underscores the transformative power of confronting one's fears and the importance of fostering understanding within a community. Their story serves as a timeless reminder that through empathy, education, and unity, societies can overcome even the deepest of divisions and emerge stronger than before.